Author's point of view. Wondering, he was lost in his thoughts. No conclusion was attained. Meantime, the sudden drop in your blood pressure reduced blood flow and oxygen to your brain. There was enough reasons why a blood drop in blood pressure could occur and lead to temporary loss of unconsciousness. The stress was one among them, and even after multiple attempts to breathe, you failed. But before your body could completely give up, he hugged you gently, and his words laced with regret were the last you heard. I wish I hadn't done this thing at all. Your weak pulses were monitored on the screen. Multiple see-through cords were connected to your unconscious self. At the edge of the bed was Jungkook, staring blankly at you. Stoic would be apt word to describe his stance. Nothing extreme could be concluded after observing his face. She would be fine very soon, Jungkook, came a pleasant, assuring voice. The man in a white coat with stethoscope around his neck had run a thorough checkup on you before concluding. How long? His flat voice demanded. Anytime soon. The doctor could not jump to definite answer, as how long an unconscious person would take had close to no definite probability. Anytime soon. The doctor's words ringed his ears. How am I supposed to handle this? Her. This was his first notion. He was guilty of his non-rational, head-written actions. He wasn't proud of his behavior. He regretted every bit of it. And one thing which completely consumed him was the innocence that he was close to staining on. But this is what he wanted, right? Then why was he regretting it? Humans have the heart to feel, not him. Not when he claimed himself as a devil. Boss, a knock grabbed his attention and his eyes swirled towards the door. Cicely has arrived, Jake notified before bowing in respect. It's 8 already. His eyes searched for the wall clock, and yes, it was past 8 pm. He had initially asked Cicely to meet him around this time, but the turn of events didn't even spare him that moment to keep track of time. For more than 8 hours, you were still sleeping peacefully. Though unconscious to begin with, now you were in a deep slumber. A final glance at your small frame before he detached his perfect curves from the mattress. Assign someone to be put by one, he ordered, exiting. Other than being put at the edge of his bed, he had performed nothing for the time after he fell unconscious in his arms. Yet he was fatigued. Over you? Not really, rather himself. How long is it gonna be? Getting down the staircase, he wondered, until his eyes fell on Cicely. Nice curvy body, thick blonde hair, nice firm lips, holy belly button, pedicured painted toenails and fingernails. She was reclining on the sofa in a way that revealed her thigh through the long slit. You seem tired. Cicely detached herself from the comfortable spot after Jungkook was in view. The dip of the sofa was back to normal. No beating around the bush was her quality, or every because she was desperate to have fun. And you seem desperate. Eyes are the passage to one's heart, a great saying, true as well. With a mere glance in her eyes, he was able to figure out that Cicely didn't want to waste a single second and get his member all over her. How far are we different? She snapped this time, wrapping her hands around his nape and buried her erected against his firm chest. Jungkook could feel the tenderness of her seductive expressions. Her tone lingered with sensuality, her heavy on display. Everything should have been a turn on for him. But to his surprise, it didn't arouse him. Might be he was really tired, mentally exhausted. But don't you worry. A good would take away all your stress. Cicely aimed for his full lips, but hissed with him holding her hair in a rough grasp. You're not my lover. Be the you are, bend and spread. He hit the dead center. Undoubtedly, he had hooked up with multiple women in the past, but none could have devoured his lips. It was restricted until you entered. The urge to have your lips, to feel them against his, to nibble them and suck the life out of them was sky high. Ah, you will have to free me first, for me to obey you, came a bewitching voice, little mixed with suffering she went through because of his animalistic grip on her hair. Sure, he held you rough earlier today during the argument, yet it wasn't 1/4 of his ruthlessness that he showered on Cecily without a second thought. From his point of view, he was extremely gentle with you. I won't repeat myself. Cecily was jerked away. A slight stumble, she quickly maintained her posture again. Shiny hair, which were freely resting at her back, was pulled in a bun. After all, she were preparing to serve him well tonight. But his grumpy voice took by a troll on her. Leave. But you heard me, he stated sternly this time. Cecily stood no place to argue against him. She was aware of it. It all depended on his sweet will, if he wanted to her tonight or not, and he had declared already. For the first time, she had failed to arouse him. It had hurt her pride. Funny, she had pride. Escort her out. Jungkook instructed Jake over the call. Though firm with the decision, he nevertheless doubted his actions and hesitated over the fact of his non-arousal. Would she be awake by now? Unimportant thoughts were shrugged off, and you were back again playing in his thoughts. He knew something was seriously wrong with him. Boss? Wyan? The maid interrupted. The train of his thoughts was pulled off the track, and he realized what the maid could break in for. She regained consciousness. The fact relieved him. He experienced a positive sensation, the pleasant thought of you not waking up coming to an end, and he sighed, losing his stiff posture. Bring her dinner to my room, he ordered the lady. He took unhurried long strides towards his bedroom, certainly unhurried in a view of the fact that he was shamefaced. Ma'am, please, you will hurt yourself. The maid attempted to keep you glued to the bed. Her resistance to not allowing you to get down multiplied your anxiety. Leave her alone. His choice of words wasn't thoughtful, but his soft-spoken tone was in check. Please, you muttered under your breath. The maid you were trying to get away from was now leaving, and you didn't wish for the same anymore after hearing his voice. Close the door exiting. He commanded the maid. His eyes were soft after scanning your quivering body and your tear-stricken face. Your hands, which fisted the bedsheet in anticipation, didn't go unnoticed. Maid closed the door gently. The noise alone terrified you to the core. Once again, you and he were alone in the room. What would come next kept you on the edge of the bridge of fear. One. His voice was velvety and sudden. Your name was all he could utter as he searched for the appropriate words to make you understand his side. However, his mere presence was petrifying for you. What he did to you was nothing new. You were a victim of violence. Miss Bianca was the culprit. Yet his actions were different in a way and made you feel disgusting. You were exceptionally innocent for your age, and him forcing himself on you was a big blunder on his part. Loathsome recall raised the hairs at the back of your neck. You squeezed your eyes together, curled back against the bedboard with the dip of the mattress. He will hit me again. You thought after inhaling his vanilla mixed coffee cologne. You counted his forceful kiss as a hit. Indeed, an epitome of innocence you were. She is scared of me. His heart panged after seeing you trembling and crying silently. The least he wished for was to scare you, hurt you, or make you cry. But that's exactly what he ended up doing.
You will have to stop crying.
His words were not even close to request. It sounded more like an order that you were supposed to abide by. Please don't hit me. He requested with absolute terror racing your voice. Your voice was another hot blow to his guilt. He wanted to hug you like last time, comfort you, tug you under the blanket, put you at a peaceful sleep, but none of it was possible. He had to own up his blunder. He attempted to recite internally. It wasn't his first attempt to seek forgiveness. Earlier, when you were unconscious, he had strived for the same, but unfortunately, he was programmed differently. Words like sorry didn't exist for him, so he simply confessed the truth. My mom used to cook pancakes for me. After she was gone, the loss consumed me. Anything that could remind me of my mother was strictly censored or restricted completely. And when I saw pancakes, I couldn't hold myself back. His confession slowed the rhythm of your heartbeat. Never in your entire life, people at the orphanage made an effort to explain the reason behind hitting you. Rather, they evidently enjoyed damaging you in any and every way possible. His confession alone was enough for a pure soul like you to find yourself guilty for hurting him unknowingly. I'm sorry. You replied with your face still buried in your knees. He flickered his eyelashes, astonished at how naive you were to apologize even when there wasn't any chaos caused from your end. Why the is she so innocent? He cursed, gulping his already dry throat.
Baby, she is.
He clenched his jaws before scooping you on his muscular thighs. It was out of the blue. The very first response should have been your resistance, but it never occurred. You were abiding by rules Miss Bianca framed for you. No retorting, no argument, no favorite food, and whatnot. Only your right to plead wasn't confiscated. You could request or beg him to set you free, but his behavior from earlier today caged your slight hope before it could fling. Jungkook's point of view.
Doll, stop tempting me, will you?
I warned her internally. Like an obedient kid, she had her doe eyes fixed on her lap. Her fingers were trembling, entangled in nervousness. Her petite form was absolutely perfect to fit on my lap, and I could care less about her being uncomfortable.
Breathe. I won't hurt you, I assure.
There wasn't much I could figure out from her head hung so low. Only her trembling frame threw clues about her not being breathing due to dread.
I hate her being scared of me.
Shh. I whispered, burying the sharp tip of my nose in her chubby cheek, and her tiny form shuddered as soon as my icy thumb wiped the tears off her face.
Dinner, boss.
Came a knock on the door.
Come in.
I allowed. The maid entered and placed the food tray on the mattress before bowing and making her way out. The doctor from earlier today had laid stress on her poor health. Other than her chubby cheeks, there wasn't an ounce of fat on her fragile body. Anyways, she was enchanting.
Here, have your dinner.
I instructed her, placing the plate on her lap before squeezing her soft waist gently to pull her attention to the platter. Reluctantly, she nodded her head negatively.
You want me to repeat?
I couldn't keep check of my tone again. It was demanding and harsh. Definitely, I wouldn't take no for an answer, so I had my way again. I fastened my grip on her slender waist, fetched a spoonful of rice close to her mouth, and she denied again. I need to calm myself down. I made myself understand, shoved the spoon in her mouth. Now, how dare she defy you again? My subconscious impulsively hyped my rage. She had no clue to what extent I was suppressing the beast in me. The beast that would have claimed her long ago, caged her exclusively for his pleasure, has his beastly ways with her, rough and torturous. Plainly, I had difficulty in taming the beast in me. Is there a problem? With all that I had, I questioned as calmly as I could. My throat hurts. Her voice was extremely low. I had to pay great amount of concentration to her lips to figure out the words she had spoken. My eyes were softened at her coming clear. The probability of her lying was close to zero. I know I had kissed her neck with all my might, and her fragile body couldn't handle it. The doctor has laid stress on your poor health. You need to eat healthy, or else, how are you going to fulfill your duty as my playmate? Even toddlers could not earn this stone from me, while wine effortlessly took out the best of me. Worst, maybe. I wasn't fascinated with my change of behavior around her. It was astonishing, rather. Something. Her tiny body was shadowed under mine. Those chubby cheeks of her didn't allow a clear view of her eyes because of the way her head was hung low. Something. I repeated to allow her complete, but what came next was unexpected. She slightly moves in my lap before pointing at something underneath her, and my laugh was boundless after hearing her confess in a sinless voice, sounding only of worldly blindness. Something is poking me here.